Hi. In the previous steps for the React client application for open banking, I have two domains set up on my local /etc/host so that I can use the Light router to host two virtual hosts, ob.lightAPI.net and ob-sign-in.lightAPI.net. In this setup, I have to build every time I change the JavaScript code. I have to run yarn build to create the build folder and copy the build folder into the light config test folder for the light router to pick it up. So that meaning every time I have to build the application and then copy the build folder to another repository and then restart the light router in order to pick up the new website. This is okay if you are working on something not that complicated. However, if you are working on a big React application on the front end, it's not productive at all. You have to leverage the React application, the hot reloading, in order to actively updating the JavaScript, and then you can see all the reaction on the browser. So yesterday I started working on the login button as well as the logout from the session on the application, just trying to enhance the application a little bit from a UI perspective. And I digged into the configuration to enable the local host reloading so that I can start the React application from the Node.js and then debug from the browser. So this video I'm gonna walk through the entire process so that other people can leverage the similar approach when they develop application accessing the backend APIs based on the Light router and the Lite4j framework. So this is the documentation. So the first we need to prepare the environment. In my local setup, I have this IP address, so I put this into the /etc/host. You can see that from here. Yeah, here it is. So I have this entry there. If you want to test, you want to use this similar approach on your local desktop, you have to make sure you put your own IP address there. You can find your IP address on Linux with ifconfig. Yeah, this is your IP address. So this is the first step. The second step, you need to run this command in order to redirect the HTTP request from 443 to 8443, because when we start the router instance, we are going to listen to 8443. However, when we accessing the router through the web browser or accessing the APIs behind the router using the Light router proxy, we have to use the normal HTTPS port 443. So those two steps, once it's finished, you can start the console. Just go into the Light Docker and then run the Docker compose. The console server will be started listening to HTTP 8500. This is the console's UI, and you can see I have the Light OS instances as well as the open banking services started and registered to the console here. Once the console started, you can start the OAuth services. Similarly, you go to network light config test, light OAuth local console. Then you just run the docker compose up-d. All the service will be up running. This is to start the open banking services. Go to the open banking directory because the open banking services are in another organization on the GitHub. It's called Open Banking. So on my local directory, I'm using Open Banking as the workspace. You start with Docker Compose up -d. Now, the last step, we start the light router. Light router can be started 2 different ways. One way is you can start using Docker. You just go into this folder, network light config test, light router, local open banking. Then you can just run Docker Compose up -d. This will start the light router in a Docker container. But in most cases, like when you are working on the UI application, you might need to debug into the light router, especially that stateless auth handler, because it's tightly integrated with the UI code. However, if you are just like a UI developer, you don't need to worry about anything on the backend. You can just start with Docker. But if you want to start this light router in an IDE so that you can debug into it, what you can do is you can start using the follow this tutorial. You can start the light Docker in the IDE. Light router in the IDE. Here I have the configuration. You can see I create a server, and the main class is called network server.server. Then I use this configuration, externalized configuration -d light4j config dir, using home Steve network light config test /light router /local open banking /debug. So all the configuration is in this folder. If you want to start it, you can just go here, debug server, and you can get the light router up and running. So you can see the light router is listening to 8443. There are a couple of configuration files I want to show you so that you know how the configuration is changed in order to support localhost 3000, HTTPS localhost 3000. This is the file, like we add this into the allowed origins so that we can switch, redirect from those 3 different sites. In the client.yaml, in the OAuth section, I have this update. So previously, I have redirect URI, HTTPS, OB, light.api.net/authorization. So I just comment out. Once this is comment out, the redirect URI will be retrieved from the OAuth client service. The client when we register the client, we have a redirect URI in the client registration. So for this particular client ID, we have a client, the redirect URL registered already. So this is changed in the client YAML. In the handler.yaml, we need to make sure we have both authorization and logout so that we can authorize the user, and then we can log out the user if the users want to terminate the session. The most important configuration, of course, is stateless auth YAML. You can see the redirect URI, we configured the HTTPS /localhost 3000. The deny URI, if the users choose deny one after the authentication, then it's redirect to this HTTPS localhost 3000. The authorization path is /authorization, and the logout path is /logout. The cookie domain is localhost, so that we can use localhost from the browser. Without the configuration done, let's take a look at the client application. So this is the client application. There are a couple of changes in the React application after generated from create React app. First thing first, we need to ensure we add this start HTTPS with the environment variable HTTPS equal to true and the React script start. So in this case, if we call this script with yarn start HTTPS, we can start the Node.js server listening to HTTPS port instead of the HTTP. The next thing we need to do is set up proxies, proxy.js. We need a config to enable the course, and we need because the application need to access all the APIs for the open banking. Those are the 11 APIs from microservices from open banking. Then we need to add those two endpoints to access the light router for the authorization as well as the logout. In the responsive jar, we made some update. This is the redirect after when you click login button, and we remove the redirect so that we are going to just use the default redirect in the client registration. This will allow us to use either localhost or OB Light API whenever we want, like even when we deploy this to the test cloud without using localhost. Give us some flexibility. So the next step, let's start the client. We just need to run yarn start HTTPS. And you can see the browser tab, a new browser tab started automatically, listening to localhost 3000, access localhost 3000. And here we have a login button. This is the latest change I made just yesterday. So you can click the login button and basically redirect you to OB sign in lightapi.net. The OB sign in lightapi.net is still pointing to the my local IP address. So I can log in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and then sign in, and I can accept. Once accept, you can see this login button changed this to the account circular, this icon. This icon can be clicked. This is just indicate, okay, you are a login user. You click this, you can see the user ID as well as the logout. If you click logout, it basically log you out, and so you can see this login button displayed again. So this is the latest change. Of course, you can log in again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then click deny. If you deny, it still redirect you back to the localhost 3000. But here you can see it still displays login, meaning this is not login user at all. So because we are trying to work out this login logout, every time you need to interact with the backend, the light router instance. So it's very crucial for us to set up this in the debug session so that you can create you can create a breakpoint in this stateless auth handler to see how the UI React application is interacting with the light router middleware handler, stateless auth handler. So this is pretty much like how I do the development for the React application. You can follow the similar approach for to develop applications that access the backend APIs with the Light Router. This give you the most flexibility and productivity. Thank you. Bye bye.